Welcome to Black Businesses Matter, a podcast about why Black businesses matter and the benefits of collaborating and advocating for Black businesses to drive impact. Each episode will cover legacy, hope, Black joy, funding sources, cultural shifts, equality, and so much more. We will provide inspiration and action while spreading some joy to a thriving community of Black business owners and leading thought leaders.
I am Larvetta Lofton, your host and the founder of the L3 Agency.
Known as the brand maven who transforms organizations with her storytelling prowess, meet Larvetta L. Lofton, host of Black Businesses Matter, a podcast about why Black businesses matter and the benefits of collaborating and advocating for Black businesses to drive impact.
Well, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Black Businesses Matter. So we have been somewhat on a little bit of a hiatus, but I will tell you this summer, we've learned that people in the summer are like traveling and vacationing. So a lot of folks aren't available, which I think it's beautiful. I'm here for it. I love it, but it's teaching us to probably kind of go on vacation too and resume at a different time. But nevertheless, we are excited. There's so many things that are happening in the world that I am, one, overjoyed about. And two, by the time you get this episode, I think we will have had the Democratic National Convention, which I've just got to throw in. It's in Chicago. And as you all know, I am from Chicago. We record out of, a Chicago studio. And so I will say that we're going to be, for that entire week, I feel like the world is going to be paint blue and red for like a week. So that's going to be cool, especially, because we hear all of these horrible things about Chicago. I'm just happy to hear all these people. And then we have two conferences. We have one, the National Association of Black Journalists will have, by the time you all get this episode, they would have been here too. So that's exciting. It's just all these things that are coming as it relates to post-pandemic. I think it is fantastic. And I just want to say for all of you all that are rocking with us, we are doing our very best to just step it up every season. Highlight, we on the road to the 100th episode. I think we're now at like 89 by the time we're 90. So we are super excited. We met someone a couple of days ago and they said kudos because most podcasts don't get past 10 episodes. So from a statistics standpoint. So the fact that we are at 89, woohoo, I'm excited about that. I don't know when we're going to end yet, but know that I am excited to get to 100. I don't know, 100, I think that's like 100 push-ups, 100 squats. Like when you get there, you're like, yes, I'm winning. Now what? Right. So I don't know. But our next guest, as you all know, we've been talking about mentorship. We've been really diving into this term of mentorship. And merely it's because we hear in this place that many business owners mentor their staff, mentor vendors, mentor colleagues. And we wanted to highlight that in a way that allows for us to really talk through business owners on what that really means for them. Because we know that there's a generation that is behind us that's looking for job opportunities, looking for networking opportunities. Who should I go to? And we feel like this particular season is a season that you can share with a young professional who is entry level or mid-level. And perhaps they're looking to pivot, or perhaps they want to gain a mentor, or they want to be mentored. And so this season is all about that. And so we get to highlight the mentor and the mentee. And that's important for us because we really value as an agency owner who runs a marketing and communications firm that is like my staff or women of color, but they are all generationally different. So we have diversity in thought. And so we want to showcase more of that and allow the world to see inclusion more and more. Like diversity is a word we use a lot and I get it, but I really want us to move into this place of inclusion and in place of equity, because when we include all people, all backgrounds, all abilities, all thoughts, I think we get a better outcome, and we get to be culturally sensitive and culturally aware of what's happening in the world. And when companies lead with that as their mission, you win every time. And so we see it as an agency. We see it with our clients who do that. And so today I have the pleasure, whom I've just talked to, who is out of Los Angeles. So guys, for most of you all that's been rocking with us, we do have guests that are outside of Chicago. You all know Chicago is our first love, but we do love some of the neighboring cities like LA that certainly breeds content creation and film and all things film and television. So our next guest, she's not from Los Angeles, but she just recently moved to that area from the Bay Area. Her name is Karen Williams. She is the keynote speaker, course creator, and the creator of Black Visual Queen, a company that is working to bring diversity to the professional photography industry. She's worked in the industry for over 15 years as a photo editor. She is in charge of hiring photographers for clients like Wired, Masterclass, Square, and AARP. She is the decision maker sitting in fancy rooms with top people, debating which photographer to hire and why, and has a hand in visual stories of dozens of iconic brands. She is also a photography thought leader on LinkedIn, sharing industry knowledge. I love that she brought in, she's a thought leader. We've been talking about thought leadership on LinkedIn because we love LinkedIn. That is like that's our jam. So I just happen to see that. And I'm just like, yes. So she knows what it takes for a photographer to get hired. And her mission is to help people get access to the information and resources they need to succeed in commercial photography. Welcome to the show, Karen.
Thank you so much for having me on. So excited. Thank you again. So ready. Let's do this.
Well, first of all, Black Visual Queen, let's just sit with that for a second, because that just screams like Queen Elizabeth for Black women. That's what it's like for Black people, right? In the space of content creation. Because when I think of the word queen, I don't know what it is, but my first thought, and I think that's real, is Queen Elizabeth. Like that's my sense of royalty. And so taking that, right, break that down to me in what Black Visual Queen, so that when people hear that, they understand what your company does. Because for me, I'm like Black Visual Queen. The first thing that came to mind was you really are talking about Blackness and you're doing it visually. And it's at the highest level, like Queen Elizabeth. I could be wrong, so you tell me.
Well, it was so funny because when I was a couple of years ago, or like literally like last year, when I was like creating this company and thinking about the name, and thank you for that. Like I didn't even put like Queen Elizabeth together because I was thinking more Beyonce in a sense of Queen Bee. But when I was really deciding, kind of like I was in between jobs and I knew I wanted to do something something within photography, teaching, helping through prayer, and just kind of like in my mind thinking of all these kind of names. Black Visual Queen just popped in, just like that. And what I loved about that name was first me owning my Blackness in a way of coming up kind of in white corporate America and kind of not, being taught not to make waves and to be quiet and just, do what you're told. And owning that, hey, I know what I'm doing. I've been in this industry 15 plus years, continuing to get jobs. People love working with me, and just owning first kind of my knowledge and my power.
Yes.
With Black Visual Queen.
Yes. And I think from that standpoint of what you are speaking from, I truly believe that when you said Queen Bee, I totally agree. And I struggle with that, Karen, because in my generation, Queen Bee was not positive in some, right? So we have Queen Beyonce who's made it positive, and I love that. But initially, Queen Bee meant Queen Bitch, right? She's a bitch, And so we were termed that. And so I felt like Beyonce, because she is definitely a culture disruptor, and she disrupted to me that whole thing, that negative connotation around it. And so she's been able to really allow for there to be a positive narrative. And that's, to me, that's what culture and content creators, much like yourself, are able to do, and do it in a way. So what I do want to talk to, before we dive in, I want you to tell me this, because I always ask this, like, who was Karen as a little girl?
Karen, I think there's two phases, kind of like the young Karen. She was fearless. She did a little bit of everything. Like she was into sports. She was into the arts. She wanted to be I wanted to be a cheerleader. I wanted to be a meteorologist. I wanted to be a lot of things. And so I was just kind of dibbing and dabbing. And then I think there was a point where I think, coming from a military family and having to move a lot in high school, it was just I got tired of having to remake new friends, and kind of became closed off, and kind of just stayed in my lane, and kind of just became a little bit of a loner. And that's kind of the evolution of me going through therapy in my 30s, and, not being my former workaholic, and now the birth of Black Visual Queen, to be okay to own the space in the room, not having to crawl back or to please anyone, to be me, authentically me.
Yes.
And to then create content for specifically photographers or photo creators or creatives, to be own your voice, own your visual voice. And don't be afraid. Step out.
So Karen, what age would you say? I love you walked us through so what I gathered was, I was this curious woman who wanted to try all these different things as a little girl. So your friends would be like, oh, I could totally see her doing, and I'm doing this. I could totally see her, leading a charge at a business, being a tattoo artist, and she could also on the side play softball. Could that be you?
Yes.
I love it.
And that's just my nature. And I think that's why when I got into being a photo producer and stuff like that, hustle, it's always been in me. I'm always, and I think because being in the creative space, and for a long time, a lot of my jobs were contract. So it was it wasn't guaranteed. So it was okay, always keeping one foot in, and then, okay, what am I doing on the side? What am I doing? That's why I created Black Visual literally on the side. I was okay, what am I doing? Okay, I can do this. Okay. Learning my lesson of being burned out and putting boundaries into place. But I've always kind of had that hustler kind of mindset of not just wanting, I think for me, not always, I never saw myself as I'm going to be in one job and I'm going to be in it for 50 years. I never really saw that, even though that was shown to me of this is the right way to do it. And so when I wasn't kind of doing it, I kind of was am I on the right path of life? And now having that perspective of looking back and be no, I was placed in different places for a reason, to learn different things, and to hear different perspectives from different people.
Yeah. And I love that, the hustle. Do you think, I do want to ask, you think that we still have the same hustle? In general, maybe not you, but do you think that the generation knows about the hustle, or is the word hustle no longer?
I think the hustle, I think you can still use the term hustle, but it's being defined in a different way.
Tell me.
I think the hustle of my generation of you have to hustle because of these, financial, setbacks and the pandemic of we are not going to have the same things like our parents. We got student loan debts, and we need to have a hustle to either, usually it's, financially be stable, or it's more of a creative outlet. I'm not being fulfilled in a job that I have to take because maybe financially or something circumstances. I think now hustle is in a way of, I think Generation Z and Alpha, it's more of a hustle of I'm hustling on the things I love not listening to the outside world. And it's not like, I don't think it's like a negative connotation that when I was growing up versus now, like, yeah, I do hustle because content creators, I would say like the biggest like hustlers, like you see in TikTok and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They gotta, that's a business. Like once you get serious into that world, that's a business. You got to post every day. You got to, see what's working, what's not working, and then getting sponsored, ships and all that stuff. But I think in a way for them, this is like, I'm creating the life I want. I'm not listening to what everyone keeps telling me. Oh, I need to, graduate school, you go to college and get a job and get a 401k and then you get the white. No, it's not, that's not anymore. It's like, no, I'm hustling for the life I want.
Yeah. I like how
you
put that up. I like how I'm hustling for the life that I want. I really like, that's like a whole shirt. I love that because I think you're right. I think that you think of the way that you speak about hustle because it's interesting. Like now, I'm a creative person, but for 7 days I would work. I would not take a break. I just work. But what I figured out, over time was there's a such thing as you hit a wall, right? You hit a burnout and you're just not as creative anymore. And that's literally what I want to talk about is in this place of creators, right? You started kind of like, okay, I work for this job. Now I want to help these content creators and photo and these photographers. But before we kind of go this, do you also believe that this misnomer, as soon as I hear this, I really want to be a photographer, but I know my parents wouldn't approve. Or this is the other one. Yeah, she wants to be a photographer, so she's got a little photography gig. Why have we minimized photography in a way that really tells stories, impacts lives, and quite frankly, it also chronicles times and memories for people? Like that's the thing that like you can never get time back, but the photo can take you back in time and allow for you to feel that spirit, right?
This is such a loaded question because like growing up, like even I am so grateful for my parents because they supported me. And even my parents were like, okay, you can do it. Maybe you want to get like a, a minor in business. Yeah. And I was like, no, I'm all photography. And I get it. Yeah. I think because, again, I'm going to break this up. I think generation seeing photography, I know people appreciate photography, but I think it wasn't like everyone was like, be a doctor, be a lawyer, go into the military. Like those were the prestige careers. Photography was more seen as like, oh, you mean the photographer maybe for a newspaper or the studio like Lifetime, or you go to JCPenney's or Sears or something, or Glamour Shots. Like that was portrayed as like not really photojournalism. Like even though we knew it exists, like you look at things in magazines and newspapers and you see billboards, you're not thinking about necessarily the photographer. And I think that kind of really got photography really kind of got taken to another level of being like downgraded is when, okay, the iPhone and everyone could do it. And so now there's a perception like, oh yeah, I can, and I see this all the time when people are like trying to nickel and dime or like, hey, we got a budget, like, but I can hire someone, anyone can take a photo because everyone has access, which I think is great. I'm not doubting like the smartphone. I think that's a great thing because now we can literally anywhere access, have memories. We don't have to take out a camera necessarily if we're not going to miss the moment. But I think in our minds, like, in this world, because of the iPhone and smartphones, we'll say the smartphones with the cameras, people are like, now they have this perspective where everyone can do it. So it's not special. It's not like a specialty. It's not like everyone can be a doctor. Let's walk in and we're just gonna, where photography, I just want to. And so there's not that prestige. And so people are not, and again, it's not the biggest money maker necessarily or stable job because most photography gigs, you're a freelancer most of the time.
You are. And I think that the fact that you've brought it to attention. I think it's I think it's like we didn't have enough information and enough visual to know that it could be a full career. And so, but I will tell you something. For those that are listening, we have to understand that photography tells a story. So shooting, whether you shoot it on a camera or shoot it on this, if the person that is shooting this doesn't know the story you're trying to capture, to me, you're just taking photos. And to your point, anybody can.
You literally said what I usually tell photographers. There's a lot of people who knows how to, click a camera, push a button on camera. Yeah. There's not a lot of photographers.
Yeah.
Because there's so much. I literally wrote a LinkedIn post this week on it. There's so much that goes into it. It's like composition and like that's just the technical stuff. And I think a lot of people, a lot of photographers, I always see the mistake. They get hung up on the technical, but first you need to understand how to see the photo, how to see it. And it's usually, photos light. So it's like, how do you see the light? How do you capture light? How do you manipulate the light to get that moment? That's photography.
And I think, as an agency owner, we hire a lot of photographers, a lot. And we hire diverse photographers, diversity from a woman to, people of color.
Yep.
It's important for us to be able to, even to non-people of color. I think we've been able to do that. One of the things that we've also learned is this idea that the photographer is part of your story. And I think what happens is we bring these photographers kind of at the end and versus not bringing them at the front to understand what it is. So tell me this. So based on the platform that you've built for photographers, is it so that they can build a sustainable business? Is that the goal?
The goal for me, for the photographers, a little bit of that, but it's mostly like to demystify of like, because a lot of photographers, whether you come from school or you're self-taught, you're not, photography industry is kind of gatekeeping. So it's like, even if you're successful, like say, family portrait or wedding photographer, or you're successful, like brand tech, editorial photographer, the industry is a bit gatekeepy. And so I, what fuel my passion for what I do now with Black Digital Queen and helping and mentoring photographers is just to tell the basic information that you're not learning in schools or learning like on the streets or if you're self-taught. And these are basic things of how do you put a portfolio together? And again, I've done everything wrong. So I'm using my experience so you can have a better foundation of like, hey, I've done it wrong, so you can do this right. It's almost like I walked so you could run, crawled on glass and stuff like that. So what I do for Black Digital Queen and help in mentor with photographers and other like people like photo producers and stuff, I'm helping you to be like, this is what because I've been in the rooms and this is a tough industry, and I'm telling you this is how you need to be presenting yourself. This is what you need to be looking out for in contracts. This is how you need to behave so you're not on the blacklist. Telling you the real stuff that people are not, and there's a lot of nuances that, again, you can't pick up, or other photographers, because they feel like, oh my God, I got, I'm successful and I got all these, clients. I don't want to give away the secrets and then lose them to another, photographer, right? So I want to release the info of like, these are just basic things.
Yeah. So, which is a perfect, that's why you're perfect for this show about mentoring.
You're listening to Black Businesses Matter, and we will continue our conversation in a second. But first, take a listen to this special message for our BBM fam.
We know how important it is to stay connected, so why not join our BBM Fam Club for special announcements and exclusive offers by texting BBM FAM to 312-300-1300. That's BBM FAM to 312-300-1300 today. Now let's get back to Black Businesses Matter.
we talked about, different mentoring methods. I mean, we talked about it. We kind of opened up the season. And so we have this kind of like one-on-one, we have this, kind of personal mentors, like all of these different things that we look at. Tell me, based on the business, how do you see yourself as a mentor? Are you the one-on-one? Is it kind of like creating mentees as a group? Are you kind of like the kind of mentor that says, I feel like I'm a thought leader posting content to help those so that they can be better? Are you the tribal leader that comes from that space of being able to tell your tribe like that it's not formal, it's less informal? Like, what would you describe as your mentoring style?
I'd say it's like a mixture of one-on-one, because I really value, because every person's situation is unique. So I can't just like give like do a group and be like, hey, everybody, let's all do this, when everyone is like literally looking for something different. But then I'm also then a little bit of kind of like the, thought leader. And that's what I do in LinkedIn. That's my tribe, which is insane. I used to be an Instagram girl, but LinkedIn is my jam. 10,000 plus, yay. And that's where I kind of do more generalized of like, hey, a like broader concept. The mentorship part of it is like, okay, I'm here, let's set goals. Cause I'm I'm not free flowing in a sense, because I am a goal oriented person. This is why I'm a producer. I like systems, and I like to be like, okay, first you need to kind of like how I like work with mentees is like, kind of like, hey, what are you kind of aiming for? Like, what is that? Because we can't get somewhere until I know you need to, really look at within inside yourself and be like, what's your ultimate like outcome? And then I can help assess. Now, again, there are one-offs where it's like, and that's really for photographers. Now, when I'm working with Lauren, who you will be speaking with, later on, with her, she works on my side of it as well as being a photographer, but she works on my side as a photo editor. And that is a little more free flowing on our side, because it's like, it's more of a conversation being two Black women in this kind of, male dominant kind of space, white space, and talking to her and like, look, I totally understand where you're coming from, because when I started, there was hardly any Black people in photo editing and working in editorial publications. Like, the only Black people you really saw were like in SMS magazine and some, like basically the Black publications. And so I literally had to navigate with, and if I saw a person of color, it usually was on the design team, not in photo. As a photo, I was the only one. And, I'm grateful now there's more people in the space, because that's another hard industry to even get into. But, for me, it's like, I get like, hey, this is not a hill to die on. Trust me, this is what you need to do. This is how you navigate this situation. Always saying, hey, this is just my experience, and always take what works for you. But that kind of like mentorship, kind of like when it's kind of peer and you're kind of in the same space, that for me, I can be more free flowing in a sense.
Do you find that in the peer-to-peer, you become, while you're the mentor, you also become the mentee?
Yes, because I learn. Because even again, I think the most successful business people, just like you have a constant growth mindset. Yeah. Always wanting to learn and hear different perspectives. Just like when I'm working with younger people or other generations, different types, hearing different perspectives is always helping me grow and making sure I'm not so tunnel visioned and hearing like, well, this is not how it is anymore. And I'm like, okay, yeah, check me. Okay. You got me. Right. So I'm learning from her just as she's learning from me.
I love those mentorship relationships though. I think that's the dopest to me. That's just how I see it. Like, I just think that's dope. So I have to ask you this, Karen. So who is your living mentor and who is your maybe not living mentor?
Oh, gosh. I think my current, I unfortunately was never ever find a mentor in the space that I was working in.
That's
so it was more like for my mentors, it was more like always colleagues, kind of peers who were senior to me, that I got like advice and feedback. And again, unfortunately, I never could find like people of color, you know, and stuff like that, but lean on them. So I didn't have anyone super specific. And I think that's why my passion of when I started Black Visual Queen, one of the things I wanted to do was be a mentor, because again, I didn't have anything to be like, hey, anyone looking for a mentor for, you know, being a photo editor, producer? And like, I did not have that at all.
So that's interesting. Honestly, that's interesting to know that you didn't have one and you're creating a space. I love that. Like, I love that. Is there a mentor that's not living that you? No. Okay. Because it's an opportunity for people to understand that mentors can be people that are not living, right? Whether that's grandma or whether that is someone, you know, it could be whomever.
I think for me, it wasn't necessarily a mentor because I never met him but what I remember when I went to photography school and I was studying history of photography, when I discovered Gordon Parks, he was like one of the only black photographer who was like considered a master alongside like Annie Leibovitz or Walker Evans, all these greats. And when I saw how he, like, I was like, okay, there's a black person in this thing. Because again, white dominated field. But I was like, okay, you're telling me he's shooting alongside Walker Evans, you know, for the government, you know, documenting the South during the Depression. But then he's hired by Time Life and he's shooting fashion and he's shooting all the, like, you know, notable, you know, names like, you know, Malcolm X, you know, and all these amazing people, you know, and he had that range. That for me was inspirational in a sense, and a mentorship, like, oh, it is possible.
Yeah, it's
going to be hard, but it is doable.
It's possible. I'm glad you brought up that, because sometimes we think, right, you remember as a child, it was like, who do you want to be like? And I learned to somebody, it's like, instead it's like who you want to be like, who represents where you want to be, versus because we are our own people, right? I want to be, yes, I love Michael Jordan and his hustle and how he moved, but I don't want to be like him, right? He represents the character that I live, and I appreciate that, right? And so there is what I would call is like this non-invasive mentorship, right? It's not in your face selling you mentorship. You know, I also was at a tech conference and they said mentorship is community. And I was like, I received that, because when we have young, you know, Black and brown girls, and you walk in the room and you say what you do, you just literally shifted that young girl's mind and said, oh, if she can do this, I can do that. And she lives in my community. That is huge. And so I feel like we don't address that. So I'm excited just to allow for there to be space that business owners are passionate about being able to mentor in traditional and non-traditional ways, and to help you advance. So here's where we do, Karen, this moment. So we have BBM, which is Black Businesses Matter. That's our, so we call this like our Bravery Business Minute. So what it is you have an opportunity. It's brag on your business for 1 minute, for several. You can have 3 minutes. I mean, it's my podcast, right? And so it's an opportunity for you to brag about your business. So I'm going to take this opportunity for you can name drop, you can do whatever, but this is your moment that you have to brag about your business. And so that people will know about it. Yes, we love you and you're on this platform, but this is your moment to be able to brag about how amazing your business is and what it does.
So I will try my best, because I am very bad about bragging or like saying, you know, giving myself props, but I will say, in the little time that Black Visual Queen has been, you know, around, like literally a year, like a little over a year and a half, you know, I am able to say that I am going to be a published author of the Photo Hustle coming out next year. And literally it's taking all my wisdom and knowledge. I always say this is a passion to love letter to photography. Cause like you said, you brought up how people just like, oh, I can do it. I want to just pay 5 cents on it. And then someone hires someone and pays them 5 cents. And you're like, what? Like, this is for photographers just to get the information out there. And the reason I want to do a book is like, I want to put it at a lower price point where, again, if you can't afford, again, my ultimate goal is to get this in libraries. So it's like, if you don't have any money, you can check it out. This is to give you the basic foundation of like, how do you present your website? How do you pitch people, to get the job? Okay, how do you do estimates? What do you look at on contracts? How do you act and who on set and who's on set? How do you avoid the blacklist? How do you navigate yourself of being a freelance photographer in the highs and lows? So I'm very proud of that. Someone pointed out, it's like, Karen, like most people dream about writing a book, and within literally a year of having this dream, you've made it happen. And you're publishing with the independent, publisher. I'm like, okay, yes. So I give snaps. And with Black Visual Queen, just to be able to create a community on LinkedIn and all my other socials, and to be able to have many mentor 15-minute chats with so many people around the world, and just to hear different perspectives and to be able just to be of service. That's my biggest accomplishment. I think it took me a long time to get to this point, and I still work on it. I used to be a complainer, and what my former boss many moons ago, she was like, okay, well, what's your solution? And I was like, what? I would just complain, and not offer any type of help or solution to the problem. And that really shifted. And I think, for me, the guiding force for Black Visual Queen of being a bit like a visual consultant for brands to add more diversity, to, up level their photography game, to help coach photographers and mentor photographers on being the best they can be in any type of genre, and be successful in this business, and to understand this business. I think the biggest kind of mantra for me is be the change you want to see. And that's why Black Visual Queen, circle back to that, own it. And like you said, like little girls who just see like, oh my God, I didn't think I could be that. Just like for many Black Americans, especially Black African Americans, to see Barack Obama as president, because you didn't think it was possible. And then maybe possible this year as the first Black female president. We don't know yet.
We don't know.
But again, to see it, it's possible because we had Barack got elected.
Yeah.
So it's possible. So and it's been scary because I've been behind the scenes as a producer and photo editor and director. I've been behind the scenes, and to put myself out here as Black Visual Queen, owning the space, not being quiet, doing keynotes, speaking at conferences, saying yes, getting over my fear, knowing that if I just help one person or just put an idea in one person's mind, that's worth it. And I'm doing something. I'm not complaining. I'm doing something about it.
There you have it, folks. BBM stands for Black Businesses Matter, but it also stands for bragging on your business for a minute or two. Sometimes it takes that. And we wanted to start doing that merely because most Black business owners do not talk about their business and themselves. That is just not in us to be able to do that. So we wanted to create a space where we can feel comfortable about our dopeness, our brilliance in this space, so that other people can feel that, recognize it, know who to tap into. And so that's our space on that, because that's important for us to build this platform of Black businesses owners, so that the world will never say that they don't know an incredible, outstanding Black business that services X. Like anytime you log onto you can find a plethora of Black businesses. And so that's the space that we've created. So I have to ask you this: why do Black businesses matter?
They matter because they create a safe space. They create a safe space for people like me and others to be able to go in and be ourselves, to not have to be, put on. I know people are like, will say, oh my God, but we're in this day and age. And even when I'm in a sea of people saying like, when you're in a company, sometimes and you're like, you can be yourself, and you don't see but one or two, you still have to, there's this mass persona that you have to portray. And why Black businesses matter is because you're creating this space that we can all be ourselves.
That's beautiful.
That understand. Like, I love my hairdresser, my braider. I love that she just knows. And if I went to someone else who wasn't versed, and I'm like having to explain, or when people are like, there's just this difference. There's just an understanding.
Yeah. And I receive that. And I think that's the best part of it, is that there's that mutual understanding that we get to have together. And again, I'm going to say this for everyone. We are not creating a platform where we don't want all people to learn about Black businesses. So we want to be very clear. It's just creating a space that's positive and be able to shift narratives that were never afforded us to be able to have it. So I always, like to say that, because sometimes people feel like, well, you only focus on that. I focus, we collaborate, we advocate for Black businesses. We advocate for those who advocate for Black businesses, who collaborate for Black businesses. This isn't a space. It's for a space to make sure that people can actually log on and listen and be inspired in the area that they choose to be in. And I love when you gave the fact that your first mentor was not in your industry. And I think that is so important to say, because I believe that that's the mistake we all make. We need mentors to be diverse as well, too, in the fact that, because you get a different perspective. And so for that, Karen, as we wrap up, what brings you joy?
Nature and the water, being in the water. As you say, being in LA and being a California girl. One of my favorite trips I did with my family, and it was right after the pandemic, when we were finally free for 2 seconds. When California opened for 2 seconds before we closed back ago, we did a trip along Highway 1 going Northern California. And you're just sitting there and just like, this is the edge of the United States, and just the marvel of like what God has done, and just that brings me joy. Nature and water, the ocean.
And I've learned to appreciate the same thing that you say, that because I'm taking more time, that I find that in nature and water, right, God is still there. Like sometimes we box God and we got to go to a worship house, and that's fine too, because that still works too. And going to water, going into nature, because those are the things that He also created for us. So there's opportunities for that. So I love that you say that. Karen, I know we're going to bring your mentee on. Is there one thing that you believe that your mentee might say about you? Just so that we can have a little fun when we get your mentee.
Oh, okay. Oh, I would hope she would say that, she keeps it real, or just very kind of this with her knowledge, and learned a lot. Hopefully learned some wise wisdom.
That's good.
I don't know. I'm not talking to her, so I'm keeping it completely blind. So who knows? She might be like, what? I don't know. No, she's awesome. So hopefully she says that about me. But I just know. I remember when she first asked me, it was just an automatic yes, because I just didn't have that.
Yeah,
I didn't have that. Like, I couldn't just go, hey, can you? And again, at the time, there was a lot of gatekeeping of roles, people in positions, and are like had to find a lot of stuff out. Google. Yeah.
And so, guys, I want to say this. This incredible soul, Karen Williams, you need to know, if there's an area of arts, and photography is one of them, If film is one of them, TV is one of them, I think she still can help you in that space to grow. Not only, that you don't have to be just a freelancer, that you can grow a successful and sustainable business so that you can showcase to family and friends that you just don't have a little photography business, but you have a thriving photography business. And Karen has created a platform for photographers to thrive. So I'm excited about Black Visual Queens and her representation of allowing for there to be spaces for Queen Bees in that space and Queen Elizabeths, right? However you want to name it, right? There's some queens out there from that Queen Elizabeth at the top all the way to our well-beloved Queen Bee. That Black Visual Queens is a platform for you to engage. She's on LinkedIn. She's on Facebook. Tap in. As you all know, this particular season is all about mentorship. It is all about bringing businesses who literally bring mentorship as part of their, one is their core values, but it could also be another way where they have as a revenue stream. Like mentorship can also be a revenue stream when you're training others and helping them grow. And so I think we've also haven't seen that dynamic. And Karen is an example that has created that as a dynamic as a creator. So really get out of your way, creators and photographers, get out of your way and allow yourself to be able to invest in yourself and be able to do that. So I'm excited for Black Visual Queens. I look forward to this book because I want to get me a book because I think books, I'm a bookworm, and I also think books are conversation pieces. So, it's like you get to talk about it. So I look forward to that. So please keep us abreast, Black Businesses Matter, on when that book comes out so that we can too celebrate you and honor you as a mentor. I will say this as we wrap up, Karen. It's crazy because you also, I'm going to also put it out there. I was on a show called Mentoring Queens. It's a national network. It's on a national network. It's called Mentoring Queens, and they highlight Black women who are shining light on areas or themes to be able to allow for other people, young people, younger people, or people that pivot and want this. Because I also want to say there are people that's like, I've always wanted to do something, and they may not be young, but I was featured in the show and it aired, but they just gave me a beautiful award. And as I was sitting here with you, I was like, Karen is another mentoring queen that I hope that they will be able to look to you and feature you, because I think the work that you're doing is outstanding. I'm a creative girl, content girl. So I love all this. On the side, I started off as a camera operator. So this right here was my first love to it. So kudos to you. And I'm going to find my way to make an introduction for them to consider you for their next season.
Thank you.
So, guys, thank you for rocking with us. I'm going to give you all a couple of things. Is keep following us. And you all know we are launching this text message campaign. You can join our community. You can text BBM to 312-300-1300. We're probably saying a lot of that, but I'm just reminding you because we want to build a community that we can highlight these businesses that have been on and the stuff that they're doing in the future. Much like with Karen, she has, really given us some really great information, but she's also coming out with a book so that you will be aware of that and special offers that she may be able to offer to the community. So guys, thank you. I appreciate you. Keep rocking with us. We'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to Black Businesses Matter.
Wasn't that incredible? I truly enjoyed Karen's passionate retelling of her brand story. One key takeaway for me was the discussion on diversity in photography, or rather the lack thereof. It's crucial that those capturing significant moments in history reflect both the minority and the majority's perspectives to provide a complete narrative. Take a moment to reflect. In which industries have you noticed a severe lack of diversity? How does this impact those fields? Be sure to check out our show notes to connect with Karen, the Black Visual Queen. And then join our community by texting BBM FAM to 312-300-1300.
The Black Businesses Matter podcast is produced by the L3 Agency, a culturally sensitive influencer, marketing, and communications firm in Chicago, where relationships are our currency, passion is our profit maker, and people are our bottom line. Follow us on Instagram at Black Businesses Matter.